The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark.
Hello everyone, you're probably wondering why I'm reviewing The Haunting Hour today. Well, it's because there have been too many requests for Kat to handle, and he technically asked me to do this one. So, here we are with the Season 2 premiere Creature Feature, Parts 1 and 2. We open up with our main character, John, in his basement of retro movies, like all high school kids have. The actor who plays John was also in the episode Dead Body and the movie Super 8. His best friend Nathan, however, just got off of Flight 462 and came here with Lisa, a girl who just got out of a relationship. The original plan for these friends was to watch retro movies in a basement, but instead Nathan wants to go to the beach with Lisa since she's got a driver's license now. This draws a line in their friendship. At least it would if they truly were friends. So John tags along with Nathan and his prey go to the beach, but since Lisa is new to driving, they end up at Silent Hill.
What? There's a drive-in movie theater. Where?
Okay, maybe she did actually drive there, and John is about to be judged by it. I kid, but John does run over to the theater while Nathan and Lisa join him. While scouting it out, John ends up in the projection booth and Nathan again tries to get him to leave.
Hey, let's lock it up, children, and return to the vehicle.
They stay, and in horror movie fashion, the projector turns on by itself and sucks John in somehow. It's never really explained how John gets sucked in, but we do see how people do get sucked in later. As for now, John is stuck inside the movie The Fly. No, really. It basically is just the 1958 film The Fly with some deviation. Now, inside the movie, he decides to entertain himself and act out the rest of the plot.
My most trusted colleague? He is so jealous of your work. And besides that, he's criminally insane. And he made this serum that will turn humans into giant ticks, and he's gonna inject it into your brother. Ha! You watched too many movies, young man.
Okay, it's one thing to say that in a 2000 film where a lot of movies have been created with those cliches. It's another to say it in a 1958 film where those cliches are really just being invented. Not only that, but this scientist doesn't even think somebody by the last name of Mangler is evil. The scientist of the movie also introduces his daughter, Marjorie, who constantly reminds me of Tamara from the Nostalgia Critic. Moving away from that, Nathan and Lisa continue to watch the film until a police officer shows up.
You want to tell me what's going on?
Our friend is stuck in a movie. Okay. Of course, the officer goes to the projection room and investigates. It's a film projector. It's not going to bite or anything. Since this officer is close to retiring, he gets sucked into the movie and attacked by the human fly. I mean, sure, he could have drawn his gun and shot at it, but overreacting and standing around is a much better strategy. Dr. Mangler walks out and steals his gun since he's not an idiot, so now our villain is more lethal. Too bad he's a 1958 over-the-top horror movie villain. John enters the cabin where Dr. Mangler houses his creation and finds Marjorie and attempts to cut the ropes. During this scene, Lisa comes up with the brilliant plan of cutting the film reel to help free John. Sure, it could do that, or it could, create a distortion in the film universe and either destroy everything or let everything loose like Pandora's box. Not only does John get captured and about to be injected with something, but Lisa then thinks that her plan might not be all that great. Right as she's about to do the action that she just came up with a few moments ago. They cut the reel anyway, and that's the end of the first part. We don't know how it goes. The first part was good, but not flawless. Our main character, John, is like a young Sean Spencer with his vast knowledge of movies and references to all of them that many don't know about. Nathan is like a friend to him, but I wish they added more onto their relationship as it is important to the ending of part 2. Lisa was there, I guess. The way that the events of the film happened, it was clearly making jabs at old school horror films. Thankfully, it doesn't go too far, just addresses how the dialogue can be bad at times, the villain is made a little too obvious, especially when Vincent Price is involved, and about the sets and budgets. As we mosey on over to part 2, we see that John is free from the movie. How does he thank them? By complaining about how he could have escaped and they should have left him in the movie, of course. I mean, sure, the staring contest between him and Dr. Mangler was really intense, but his life was still saved. The other two are even annoyed by this, but only for a couple of hours as they soon forget it the next day. I wish I was joking about that, but Nathan calls him the next day and acts like nothing between them happened. Speaking of the next day, they look at the newspaper and find out that aid for the flood victims is a bit delayed because of nature. Oh, and the cop is alive but remembers nothing. We then get a very unsettling scene with a hair appearing under John's fingernail. He tries to take it out, but then his entire fingernail comes off. Okay, personally, I can't handle scenes like this since they are made to be as unsettling and gross as possible. Plus, I also kind of watched Higurashi When They Cry, and the fingernail scene in that of the girl getting her fingernails just ripped off with some sort of torture device has made me afraid of both that anime and ripping of fingernails off ever since. Anyways, after a minor transformation occurs, obviously the next step of the transformation is him scaling the ceiling and having more hair and a deformed face after most likely only a couple of minutes, maybe an hour. So, Nathan and Lisa don't find him after walking into his home unannounced and yell his name out. Funny thing here is, in part 1, Lisa brought up the idea that entering an area without permission is illegal.
Are you there?
Because he shouldn't be. It's trespassing.
And yet, they walk into an area without consent or permission from the owner of it as far as we know.
It's trespassing.
Okay, where are we? A park? I guess we wandered into another episode where the park is haunted by the ghost of another child or something. So this woman lets her child play in this empty park, which I call BS on, while she watches her from a bench. Okay, let's hope some random LARPers don't come across and hijack this playground set. And then, of course, he just jumps out of a bush, scares the child, and runs off. So, now that he has the police on his ass. Wait, the police are actually proactive about this threat? What mirror universe did I enter when watching this? The cops stop by a small mart that Nathan and Lisa stopped at because it has some vintage movie stuff that would get John's attention. Nathan stops an officer and asks for one of the wanted posters for the human fly. The officer gives him one, and then reminds his white partner to make sure their weapons are loaded. Was Nathan that much of a threat to him or something? Because he literally asks this after talking with Nathan and after the talk about snacks to his partner. Also, this proves that white cops aren't the only ones to shoot first, ask questions never. Nathan then comes to his senses and remembers that there is an antidote in the movie universe which could reverse the effects.
Does John know that?
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 Of course John would know that. So, armed with a lighter, Nathan and Lisa go back to the theater, get ambushed by Fly John because Lisa is an idiot, and send themselves into the movie universe where they immediately get captured by Dr. Mangler. Good job! So, now that they're captured, Dr. Mangler lets the flyboy from the movie eat one of the teens. He decides to eat Marjorie, but Fly John breaks free and knocks out Dr. Mangler with one punch. And then we get a fight sequence. Finally, a fight sequence that isn't obscured by something or completely off screen. Too bad it shifts over to our other characters for some commentary about John still having his junk intact. Oh good, that means a fly human can mate with a young, innocent, teenage virgin girl. However, the power of love isn't enough for John as he is defeated while Lisa manages to save the day by kicking herself into Barry and knocking him into some conveniently placed corrosive acid that falls on him and kills him. So, Lisa has the highest kill count in this episode with a whopping 1. Then, as we think everything is good, Dr. Mangler wakes up and remembers he had a gun. He then shoots John in the arm. Of course, John doesn't die, though I kind of wish he would at this point. But since he was only shot in the arm, and we all know that flies have super tough bodies, he's able to walk off a bullet wound. So then he kills Dr. Mangler or something, and the next scene is all of them okay. Just a minor cast for his, bullet wound in his arm in 1958. After a cliched speech about the dangers of science and also the next generation, Lisa and Nathan are set free from the movie while John chooses to stay in the movie world. Of course, Nathan chooses to not go in after his friend, and the episode ends with John saying fade to black. Oh man, was that one heck of an episode. The premise of being sucked into a movie is an okay plot because you can't really change the events of the movie no matter how hard or little you try. But the friendship between Nathan and John was barely explored. Sure, Nathan was worried about John's life in the first part and second, kind of, but that's what a normal human being would do. Lisa was hardly important except for a couple of scenes where her crazy idea worked. Honestly, I wish there was more focus on the relationship between Nathan and John because of what happens in the ending. John basically leaves reality to live in a movie because he doesn't want to live in the real world after learning that Nathan is trying to get a girlfriend. In the first part, John was clearly upset that Nathan chose chicks over flicks. Again, there seemed to be a good setup for a plot of John and Nathan fighting over their friendship and why John shouldn't live in a movie. My idea for such a plot would most likely be the beginning pretty much the same, but John might get into some fight with Nathan during maybe the movie or during their phone call because of the two drifting apart and John wanting to live in a movie because he not only knows what will happen, but the world is set in his favor already. Getting back to the episode, the shots fired at older movies don't go too far and are slightly funny, and the sets used are pretty good and reminiscent of older horror movies. The addition of proactive police is alright. Too bad the officers are incompetent based off of one getting attacked instead of defending himself, and another one wanting to shoot first instead of capture the flyboy for science or some other reason. Overall, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Again, John and Nathan's relationship is easily the best but most unexplored part of this. Hope you enjoyed this unorthodox review, and I'll see you all later in a different video because I'll probably never do a solo Haunting Hour review ever again. Bye bye!